Merry Christmas, Degenerate Nation. Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast. This is the College Football Bowl betting preview part three. I'm Stucky, and joining me as always, my fellow BBOC co-host Colin Wilson will be going through the three bowl games on Thursday, December 26th, and the four bowl games on December 27th, making sure you have this out by Christmas Eve to get you ready for all of that post Christmas bowl action. Let's start with the Game Above Sports Bowl. By the way, Game Above. I have no idea. Do you know what Game Above is?
This used to be the Quick Lane Bowl in Detroit, so I.
This sounds like a Ponzi scheme. I don't even know what it is. I know it's
Oh,
not,
you
but
think it's the Bitcoin St. Pete Bowl?
here's what Game Above is: a brand rooted in philanthropy dedicated to inspiring greatness through sports, entertainment, and youth academies. Initially supported by a devoted group of alumni focused on supporting Eastern Michigan University and its community through Game Above Giving. I don't know what that means.
Well,
Um,
Yipsy's got some. What is going on in Yipsy?
but 5:30 Eastern, ESPN. Pitt is a 6.5 point favorite here. This game will be played Ford Field Fast Track in Detroit, Michigan. Total 51 and a half. If you're going to Detroit, Rocco's Deli for sandwiches. Selden Standard for a nice meal. And our producer says the dive bar you got to go to is Jumbo's, which looks like a true dive bar. Can't say I've ever been. When I look at this matchup, there are questions with Pitt and their quarterback, Eli Holstein, whether or not he'll be healthy enough to go.
Mhm.
If he can't go, it's going to be third string David Lynch because Yarnell, who played when he was hurt, is in the portal. These are, we're actually going to talk about Georgia Tech Vanderbilt as well in this episode. Those are two teams I wanted to bet on
Mhm.
in bowl season. Was so disappointed that was a matchup. It's kind of like in when the NCAA tournament bracket comes out and you get two mid majors that you wanted to bet on and they would get matched up against each other. These are two teams I wanted to fade. Uh, I've just been low on them all year long, so it
The
was
coaches
disappointing.
too. The coaches are 2-4 against the spread and 2-5 between Narduzzi and Candle. They have not shown up in bowl season either.
Yeah, and when I look at the matchup, Toledo is incapable of running the ball. I mean, they are bottom of the barrel rush offense, but you can't run on Pitt. So, except, they give up some run explosives, aggressive defense. Toledo doesn't have any explosiveness in their run game. So you're not really neutralizing anything that Toledo does. You have to beat Pitt through the air, and you have to hit explosives through the air against their quarters, aggressive corners on the outside as well. That's pretty much all Toledo can do on offense. They have a good group of receivers, a quarterback who's way up and down. If you get bad Gleason here, Toledo's going to get blown out. Get good
Huge,
Gleason,
huge,
they can.
horrible. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
If you get good Gleason, they can hit some explosive plays. I expect. The question is, can they block enough? Can they give them time? Both of these quarterbacks are very poor under pressure.
Mhm.
And both of these quarterbacks, if you look, Holstein 17 touchdowns, seven interceptions, but 13 big time throws, 20 turnover worthy plays. Gleason 22 touchdowns, seven interceptions, but 10 big time throws, 15 turnover worthy plays. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a number of turnovers here. There's, some havoc minded defenses, some offenses that can give up havoc. A, a couple areas where Pitt might have an advantage. Special teams, they've been good there all year. Toledo has not. And then Pitt has been much better finishing drives off with touchdowns than Toledo. Part of that is Pitt has more options to score because Toledo can't run the ball. When the field shrinks, their offense just takes a dive. That said, two teams I want to fade. There's questions of whether or not Holstein will play. I'd be inclined just to take the points, but this isn't a bowl game I feel strongly about. What do you see here?
Yeah, to me, this is I mentioned on the last podcast what we do when we have this kind of makeup with two teams. And so, you mentioned Tucker Gleason and you mentioned his TD to INT versus his big time throw to turnover worthy play ratio. Do not get fooled by that 22-7 touchdown to interceptions. He is not good with pressure. In 104 attempts, he's had two big time throws and seven turnover worthy plays. Pitt's havoc in line yards are top 20. They're top five in tackles for loss. They're 17th in PBUs. I mean, this is a really bad look for Toledo here, and I don't expect a lot of points, especially like if Alan Jones doesn't go at left tackle. Stephen Gales did have 331 snaps at the position, but he did not grade out very well. I don't see much of anything coming out of Toledo. And when you go to the other side, it looks like we're going to get David Lynch probably as the quarterback, redshirt freshman. If Eli Holstein cannot go, 6 of 9 for 46 yards and an INT. He comes from the IMG Academy. But what is this offense for Pittsburgh? We are 126th in havoc allowed. Holstein was 2.9 seconds per release. That is extremely long. He took 21 sacks from 121 pressures. I don't see David Lynch surviving a offensive line and our offensive period that's 126th and havoc allowed. And Toledo's defense is only one of a dozen teams that not allow a 50-yard run this season. I was actually shocked by that stuck. There's only like I think 12 teams that haven't allowed a 50-yard run. Well, Toledo's one of them, and they're fourth in the nation, allowing 30+ yard rush gains. So when you put all this together, the fact that Pitt can't protect any quarterback, no matter who's under center, the fact that Toledo has no avenue to score here, and we may have new faces and new pieces on both sides of the offense. It's a first half under because right, we've seen these offenses come out in these bowl games. They don't know who they are. They haven't worked together in a live situation. I took a first half under on the 26, kind of waffling on the 51. Nothing's showing up here in the market. I will also say, just go look at first halves in the first game the day after Christmas. It's a shit show of offense. So first half under here for me.
I don't mind that. I'll say I don't
Fast
mind
tempo.
these.
I know fast tempo. It scares me. Fast tempo.
Yeah, I'm a fast track. I don't mind taking a shot on Toledo money line. I just think there's a lot of variance. The pick quarterback situation, I think there could be some turnovers. I think if Toledo's hitting those explosives with their receivers, then they're going to have a shot to win this game. And the Toledo defense is solid. It's not as good as last year, but if you look, this is a team bad offense. They just have to hit the explosives. Like they're out very inefficient offense, outside the top 100 in both rushing and passing success rates, inside the top 40 in both on defense. So big difference there. So I don't. Also, Pitt's leading receiver opted out, Mumfield.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah,
not a game I feel
he
strongly about.
was
What's
slot
that?
wide. He spent half his snaps in slot and wide out, so it's a huge loss. It's not just one position they got to fill; it's a lot.
All right, let's move on to the Rate Bowl. This used to be the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. They're apparently rebranding, so it's just the Rate Bowl.
Was this the Cactus in Motel 6? Got to look that up.
I don't know which one this was. This is 9 Eastern on ESPN. Rutgers, Kansas State in Phoenix, Arizona. If you're going to Phoenix, a follower says you got to go to Scottsdale and go to Chelsea's Kitchen for the vibes, and it's a good place. A couple other people co-signed on that. Um, Kansas State 6.5 point favorite, total 50.5. Shiano's been very solid in bowls, 6-2 at Rutgers. It says he learned from Paterno when he was a young coach how to prepare for bowls. Paterno was always very good in bowl games. Chris Kleiman, by the way, I think he's 2-2 in bowls at Kansas State. Just talking a little bit about there's a little bit of insight. I think every coach is going to be different, every situation is different. But he was saying the time between the end of the season and the bowl game, he spent 70% of it on roster construction, which means like
Yep.
portal recruiting, 30% on prep for Rutgers. Well, like some news here, it looks like everyone on Rutgers is going to play. I mean, their cornerback Robert Longerbeam, his Instagram story, I take that as he's going to play. Same with their safety Shaq Loyal, left tackle Holland Pierce, still an unknown. Kyle Monangai said discussions are still ongoing, but he did make the trip. He was there based on his Instagram. Tyreen Powell, their linebacker, said discussions are still ongoing. So there's a couple questions. They did have some injuries at the end of the regular season, which are worth monitoring. I'll have these all updated in my file. But they're starting corner, Eric Rogers, starting DN, Aaron Lewis, and starting safety, Igmanosun. They didn't play in the finale. Rutgers also won't have a defensive coordinator for the bowl game. Kansas State, they'll
Before
be
you go
without
there,
their.
Holland Pierce at left tackle is a huge watch. There's only 24 snaps that went to any other lineman to left tackle. So 850 snaps for Holland Pierce. Big piece.
Yep, Kansas State will be without wide receiver Keegan Johnson. They're starting right tackle Carver Willis, and then their running back Giddens, who declared for the NFL draft. You got to hit explosives on this Kansas State D. The problem is Rutgers bottom 20 explosiveness on offense. You can't really run on Kansas State. You have to beat them through the air. Can Rutgers do that consistently? I do know Rutgers, they won't beat it. They won't beat themselves, right? With field, they'll have good field position. They won't beat themselves with turnovers or penalties. You can run on Rutgers, which does worry me. Against Avery Johnson, you might see his legs unleashed here and the Kansas State backfield, even if they won't have Giddens. What are you seeing here in this game?
Yeah, I took Rutgers. I mean, you mentioned the avenue for Kansas State to score some points. I think I want to start real quick with how does Rutgers score points? Because when you look at their overall offensive numbers, it's like this is just 3 yards per rush and a cloud of dust, and hopefully we get a first down on the fourth. You know, if Mongai opts out, we got Antoine Raymond. He'd get the nod. He was less potent from a missed tackles and a yards after first contact perspective, but really, I'm keeping an eye on that offensive line. Want to see who's going to show up there at left tackle. The Kansas State D, you know, second in defensive rushing success rate, top 10 in defensive stuff rate. But you mentioned it, Rutgers, for some reason, despite lacking in success rate and EPA, they're fourth in havoc allowed and they're 13th in offensive momentum killer, which means they don't stop themselves ever. Most disciplined offense in the nation. I think if you look at Ethan Kaliak-Manis, same turnover worthy play rate as last year when he was at Minnesota. But when you look at what he's done against pressure, that's where you see a huge increase in his production. Last year, 6.8% turnover worthy play rate with Minnesota when he had pressure. This year, that's been cut in half down to 3.8%. And Kansas State is 106 in pass rush. They've had a problem creating a pass rush all season. So, not that this is an explosive pass offense or anything even worth mentioning, but at least Kaliak-Manis is going to have an avenue to have clear windows to throw into because, you know, Kansas State is not very good at creating contested catches either. But I have to be kind of mean to Ethan Kaliak-Manis, 117th in on target rate. He has not been the most accurate. But this is, like you said, a very disciplined offense, and you will get your points out of Rutgers. Now, when you mentioned is Avery Johnson the only avenue to rush explosives, and can that take advantage of the Rutgers defense? You have to go through and find a couple mobile quarterbacks on the Rutgers schedule. It was actually kind of hard to find. It seems like they played a lot of statues in conference play. Billy Edwards, 7 rushes for 28 yards for Maryland. Kyron Drones, 9 rushes for 60 yards out of Virginia Tech. Those are respectable numbers. And when you take out DJ Giddens out of here, I mean, they're going to run zone read, power, counter concepts with climate. Everything's just going to be on the table. But Dylan Edwards, not good this year. I mean, nothing compared to what he was at Colorado. He's not had a TD since week 7 against Colorado. He's only created 15 missed tackles this season. So Avery Johnson is just the whole show. And you think that Rutgers defense, oh, by the way, defensive coordinator for Rutgers, Joe Harasimiak, not going to be with the team. And Shiano would not say he would name a play caller in his presser, but we all know it's him calling the plays on defense. So I think covering Avery Johnson and putting a spy or two spies on him is going to be the plan here. Avery Johnson did have 4 explosives over the last 2 games against Cincy and Iowa State. So I would suspect that that's who gets the spy. Kansas State's not going to be able to force havoc on the Rutgers offense. The Rutgers offense is going to play a clean game. I took them +7. I'd still take them at +6.5.
Yeah, I think it's dog or nothing here. I think also from a care perspective, this probably means more to Rutgers
Yeah.
and their program than Kansas State. I mean, Kansas State had higher aspirations, so where was the care level for the bowl preparation? And judging from, I mean, they're going to be without, as I mentioned, they're going to be without their starting corner as well
Right.
in this game. It looks like this could change, but everything I'm seeing is the potential opt-outs for Rutgers are like I'm posting on Instagram that they're like excited to play in this game. So that could be some signal here. So yeah, I don't love the matchup, but I think it's dog or nothing here with Rutgers, Kansas State. Not a game that I love. Let's move
Shiano's a
on.
Shiano's an elite bowl coach. You mentioned it off the top, so that's definitely worth considering this time of year.
for sure. Let's move on to the 68 Ventures Bowl, 9 p.m. Eastern, ESPN on Thursday night between Arkansas State and Bowling Green. This game will take place in Mobile, Alabama. You got to get breakfast at Ruby's Slipper and then go get a drink, watch a game at Haley's Bar if you're in Mobile. Uh, Currently, Bowling Green 7.5 point favorite, total 52 and a half. All right, so I like Bowling Green in this game, even at 7.5. Obviously, liked it better at 7 or lower. I think that there's a chance they blow out Arkansas State. Arkansas State is the worst bowl team. I mean, maybe Western Michigan, but Arkansas State, just from a power ratings perspective, this team somehow won 7 games. They went 7-5 with 5 blowout losses. I know they cut it to 8 against Old Dominion. They're down 20, and Old Dominion was on its third string quarterback. Here's who they beat: Central Arkansas by 3, should have lost that game. Tulsa by 4, South Alabama by 2. That's the only bowl team they beat. They blew out Southern Miss. That's their one convincing win. They beat Troy by 3 on a last second touchdown. They beat Georgia State by 7, ULM by 7. 7 wins, one came against a bowl team. The other six were teams I power rated outside the top 100, and they were +8 in turnover margin in those games. You cannot get luckier than what Arkansas State did to get to bowl eligibility. Did they finish the luckiest team in terms of second order wins?
I mean, I give me a half second. I'll catch up with you. Yeah.
They had, they
I think they
had,
did. Yeah. I remember us talking about this.
they had to have been like
Yeah.
2.5 wins or something.
3.8 is the different. I'm sorry, 3.2 second order win total. That
3.2. So they were really like a 3.8 win
3.8.
team.
They should have been 3.8 wins this year.
That's insane. And then Bowling Green, I think, was actually a solid team. I think that I've been power rated right with Ohio now at the end of the season, which is pretty crazy to say since how low I was on Ohio. Ark State will be without their starting corner,
Can I
Dante
can I
Joyner.
can I interview for a second?
Sure.
Nearly the most unlucky team in second order win total. Bowling Green should have been an 8.4, minus 1.4 should have been an 8.4 win team. This is the second order win total bowl.
Second order win total bowl. Yeah, I love Bowling Green here. From
Mhm.
a Bowling Green does have a few more starters out. They're going to be without their running back Stewart, their right tackle, and all three of these players were all MAC, first team all MAC. Right tackle Wolfschlager is going to Kentucky, and then their linebacker Sip, Harold Fannin, and then Ark State's just going to be without their starting corner Dante Joyner. Looks like everyone else will play. Harold Fannin, the stud tight end, one of the best in the country. He won Conference Player of the Year, the first ever tight end to do that, I believe.
Mhm.
He's going to play. Arkansas State, which has a dreadful defense. They can't cover, they can't tackle. Their safeties are really bad. I don't know how they cover him. And we just saw Pat Conroy, the tight end for ODU, the third string quarterback, go for 4 for 90 for 2 touchdowns. So I think Bowling Green's the side. And and by the way, Arkansas State can't really run it, and you can't throw in Bowling Green. And I believe Olodekun's going to play their star corner. But Fannin props. Well, I don't know when they're going to come out. He needs 11 yards and he needs 12 catches to set the single season records for a tight end.
Yep.
Now, I think they're going to try to go for it. 12, I mean, obviously he's going to get 11 yards, but 12 catches,
Yeah.
I think he can get it. And he had 12 for 193 against ODU. He had 11 for 137 against Penn State. He's capable of doing it, and Arkansas State can't cover him. So I think it's Bowling Green, and I'm going to be looking for all of the Fannin reception props. I don't think maybe yards will be inflated, but I think that they're going to try to get him just many easy looks. I wouldn't even hate the yards. I don't think they're going to tackle him. I think he's going to break a couple. So Fannin props and BG, are you in agreement?
Well, let's talk about that Harold Fannin prop real quick. If you look at the last three games against Western Michigan, Ball State, and Miami of Ohio, three absolutely the highest target share rate in the last game of the season against Miami of Ohio. He ended with 12, 11, and 16 targets in those last three games. I think Bowling Green has been pushing for this for a long time. So you were on the nose there. Arkansas State, when you said that they're bad at defense, I think what you meant is they're the worst because they are. They are dead last in standard down success rate. If Bowling Green is not sitting on 2nd and 4 every single drive, I would be a little bit shocked here. I know the number has steamed. I got Bowling Green -6 on the open. That was with Terry and Stewart quote tweeting his teammates, the running back, saying, "Do you guys care if I join you?" This is a collective effort from Bowling Green to come out and do as much damage as they can. Now there are, right tackle Alex Wolschlager, he signed with Kentucky. So there's 773 snaps that'll be missing. So a little bit of a position of concern, especially there's minimal experience at the second string right tackle. But that, like I said, I'm not sure that's really going to stop against this Arkansas State.
Yeah, because the
Uh,
Bowling Green offensive line is a concern. They're not great now. They've been missing
I,
their best, but
I
does
can't.
Arkansas State really take advantage?
I can't even tell everybody like the screen I'm staring at with how much Arkansas State is near dead last in every single defensive analytic possible. And now you've lost probably your best corner. You have lost your best corner, and Dante Joyner, highest graded coverage defender through 694 snaps with an already horrible Arkansas State secondary. Scott Loeffler needs to get off the couch here, get off the toilet. 0-2 against the spread in bowl games. Butch Jones is 5-2 against the spread. So Scott Loeffler could use one here. Butch Jones mentioned, I think 2 days ago, I am ramping up my portal visits over the next 10 days. I am more interested in the future of our program, and this is a real balancing act with the bowl. And I was just like, well, I've already hit 6. I think I need to hit 7.5. Might need to hit 8. I need to probably. I mean that's the kind of comments. And considering what Harold Fannon's trying to do, and Terry and Stewart wanting to play instead of leaving the program, Fannon's going to go up against a coverage unit that ranks 117th per PFF. He's going to get a slot corner and Justin Parks that's been targeted 44 times this year, allowed 34 catches. I mean, there's just no one's
And their
covering
safeties are
Harold.
really bad.
No one's covering them. And then Terry and Stewart, that inside
I
zone.
don't think Stewart's going to play, by the way.
He might. You think he'll sit, even though he was said
I
you
mean,
might
he's
play
signed
corner
with
again?
another team, so I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
I think I'm not going to go into the Arkansas State offense. I mean, they have a respectable. They have some numbers that they can get with. Maybe I mean, kind of mid FBS and EPA. Jalen
I mean,
Rayner
Jalen
running
Leonard can make
inside
some plays.
zone.
They have some talent at receiver, but the BG secondary is legit.
Yeah, but they're going to have to make some tackles because Zach Wallace, the running back, and Jalen Rayner are going to run that inside zone. And Bowling Green's respectable, about a 52% success rate. Where I get worried about this number is that Bowling Green against inside zone has given up an explosive 16% of attempts. That is really high. You want to be about an average of 8% big play rate. So there is a chance that Arkansas State is going to rip a couple with inside zone with Rayner and Wallace. That would be my worry. But other than that, it maybe the fan and props are bigger than the side that you have on Bowling Green.
Yeah, fan and props, BG. All right, let's move on to Friday. That's gonna be fun. I'm trying to root for him to get 12 catches too. All right, let's move on to Friday. Kick things off noon Eastern on ESPN with the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl between Oklahoma and Navy. UTSA up 7-0, by the way. So we're recording this during their bowl game. Fort Worth, if you're there, Panther City for barbecue. Oklahoma is down to let me check the updated board. Yeah, down to a 3-point favorite, total 43 and a half. This was an easy click for me. Bet Navy. Now would just bet Navy money line if you're gonna bet it. It's Service Academy in a bowl as a dog. I'm gonna bet these almost every single time. 70% against the spread, north of 70% against the spread since 1990. Since 2013, Service Academy's 15-3 straight up and against the spread. 15-3, 7-2 straight up against Power Four teams over that span. Over that span. And Why are they so successful? One, you know they're going to show up. A lot of these bowls are about motivation. Service academies are always going to show up. Two, they run a unique offense. Do teams want to spend the holidays and bowl the time off preparing really vigorously for the triple option? Probably not. Big preparation edge for Navy too. Navy's not worried about the portal and all this other stuff. Oklahoma, that's all that they're doing. Their staff is doing, and they've hired, new offensive coordinator. They're in the portal trying to build the roster for next year. I doubt that they're spending a ton of time on Navy. Now, Oklahoma, they did hire Ben Arbuckle as their OC, but he won't be part of bowl preparations. Joe John Finley will continue to call plays, and the offensive staff will be retained for this bowl. Joe John Finley, I mean, they were basically like a triple option team down the stretch, but Jackson Arnold won't be playing, but I assume they're going to just try to run a lot with Michael Hawkins. There are a ton of guys in the portal for Oklahoma, and they're not going to play. All of their receivers, Brennan Thompson, J.J. Hester, Farouk, Nick Anderson, Angelo Anthony, a lot of them were hurt, but they're not going to play. Their tight end Bauer Sharp, he's not going to play. A couple of their corners are out. Um, so if you look, the running back Javante Barnes looks like he's not going to play. Okay, so like the wide receivers, if Deion Burks doesn't play, so I don't know if he's going to be healthy enough to play. He is on the depth chart. If he can't play, the top eight options at receiver are freshmen.
Hmm.
I so I don't think Oklahoma's going to have any success throwing it. Their run defense is very good against Navy, but your boy
My boy.
Danny Stutzman, he opted out. Their safety Billy Bowman, he also opted out. It does look like all their defensive linemen are going to play. Ethan Downs, I think his dad say he's going to play. R. Mason Thomas is going to play. And then a couple of other guys I was looking at, Terry Williams, Ford, and Spears Jennings, are all on the bowl depth chart, so we'll keep an eye there. But Stutzman out, Bowman out. Those are two big losses. Uh, this just Service Academy as a dog in a bowl. I'm not overthinking this. Give me the points with Navy. I wouldn't have minded the under, but I needed Oklahoma's defense to be at full strength. So
Exactly.
at this low of a number, I'm not going in on the under. What are you seeing here?
Yeah, exactly. You cannot take an under. Listen, Brian Newberry already has already covered the one bowl game that he's coached against. This is a big deal for them. You can't take an under without Danny Stutzman at the second level of the defense and Billy Bowman in the back of the defense. They are critical to making stops, tackling in space, and stopping what this Navy offense is going to do. Navy probably a sour end to the season, so you would think. Well, I'm sorry. Navy, didn't get the chance to win their conference. The bowl games are going to be very big to them. OU, their interest level in this, not sure. Venables 1-1 against the spread in bowls. Very limited in the offense. If Deion Burks doesn't play, I mean, you're looking at an RPO with Hawkins, and a rushing attack that just really struggled all season. The offensive line never really got them going either. The Navy defense is vulnerable on the ground. I mean, there's no doubt. We've podcasted about that all year. They have not been able to defend anything that OU will want to do on the ground with the RPO, but at the same time, you're going to be able to load nine in the box here and just go straight at Michael Hawkins because a lot of teams did this year on the schedule. Also, boy, taking it over here. Navy's 30 second. They average about 30 seconds per play. Not really a fast offense, but it's the EPA you got to worry about here. 10th in rushing EPA, fourth in passing EPA. Oklahoma during the season with the fourth strength of schedule in the nation against the SEC, 60th in defending pass explosives. And if you're missing Billy Bowman on the back end, it sounds more like a Navy team total over. I would like more confirmation on what's going on with that OU defensive line.
Yeah, I mean, if Navy doesn't cover, so be it. Service Academy in a bowl
Right.
as a dog. It's an auto bet for me. All right, let's move on to the sad Birmingham Bowl. Why am I sad? I've mentioned it earlier. It's Georgia Tech and Vanderbilt, two teams that I almost undoubtedly would have been on had they been playing not each other. But they get matched up here in the Birmingham Bowl in Birmingham, Alabama, 3:30 Eastern, ESPN on Friday. If you're going to Birmingham, El Barrio for Mexican. And then it's actually an underrated food spot to go to some of the local soul food spots all around Birmingham. So Georgia Tech, it looks like they did have their top two receivers in the portal, but Rutherford withdrew. So it looks like he'll play. That's big because Singleton is in the portal. He won't play. Their starting left tackle, he's also out. He's going to Arkansas. Starting outside linebacker, Romello Height, he's out. Their starting safety, Tay Seymour, he's out. I think everyone else is going to play for Georgia Tech. They did have some injuries in the secondary late in the year, so we'll see how healthy they are. But Haynes King should be healthier as well. Vanderbilt, they lost one of their offensive linemen, Gunnar Hansen, but that's about it. I think Eli Stowers is going to play. DeRicky Wright would be the other one I'm watching. I think he's going to play. The Vandy offense really struggled down the stretch, but they've now had time off, scheme up some stuff. I think teams started to figure them out, but most importantly, Pavia wasn't healthy. He now says he's as healthy as he's been since the opener against Virginia Tech. I mean, he had injuries across the board. So both of these quarterbacks could be a bit healthier. These are similar teams, and two play on teams, two teams you always want to back as an underdog. I think Vandy's going to be a bit more motivated, and they have closer to a full strength roster. I mean, this is a team that hasn't been to a bowl since 2018. By the way, Georgia Tech hadn't been to a bowl since 2018. We saw that motivation play out last year against UCF. Vandy hasn't won a bowl since 2013.
Hmm.
Both of these are run first grinding offenses that want to kind of bleed the clock down, but both secondaries are extremely vulnerable. The biggest mismatch in this game is probably Georgia Tech's pass offense efficiency, their top 20 in success rate versus Vandy's secondary, bottom 10 in the country. But man, especially if you give me three, I think I just got to ride. Two play on teams here. Pavi's going to be healthier. I like this staff to cook up some things. I think I got to take the points with Vandy. I mean, one last ride with Pavia, although he's going to be back, I think. But one last ride, it's Pavia as a dog. I think we got to take it. Do you agree or disagree?
Completely disagree.
Wow.
If you would do 2.5, we could put it on the board, but I wouldn't do
All
three.
right, yeah. I mean, I look, I was at Texas and Ohio State for me. I'm up 9-7. I'll
Yeah,
let you go.
I
Georgia
like
Tech minus
I
two and
like
a half.
yeah, I like Georgia Tech here. I think the first thing to mention is that it is going to be 61 degrees, but there are 50% chance of rain and 12 mile an hour winds here. That's going to play into a huge reason why I already like Georgia Tech. But let me start with the Vanderbilt offense. Diego Pavia is going to run 60% of the time. They got man, power, a little bit of zone read, everything going on. But their offensive tackle Gunnar Hansen's already with Florida State, and this is an offense that flip flops their tackles and their guards depending on power, which side that they want to run. It's a very interesting setup that we talked about preseason. Georgia Tech, they're pretty average success rate in defending all of those Vandy run concepts, but they are 12th in line yards, so they have been able to handle other opposing offensive lines and getting a push. Vandy just doesn't have any explosives with Pavia and Cedric Alexander at running back. They're top 30 in quality drives, but I mean, it's kind of like what we talked about with Rutgers. They don't shoot themselves in the foot. A very high ranking offensive momentum rate is just kind of slow and go. It's hard to stop. Pavia, 56 in passing success rate, 24th in EPA. I mean, a lot of that is, I'm running, I'm not, boom, over the top, play action, whatever you want to call it. But 64 targets to Eli Stowers. I don't have an update on him. I don't know if you do, but I don't have an update. A trio of backup tight ends accounted for just 10 catches this year.
I
If
think he's gonna play.
Yeah, if he plays, it's a huge boost. And I think, from a betting perspective, you need to have that before you would put money on Vanderbilt. We don't know right now, but I'm going to get it. And also, Georgia Tech edge Romeo Height, he's in the portal. He leads the team in pressures, which might not come into play because I'm not sure how much throwing is going to happen, especially if it's 50% showers and 12 mile an hour winds. So if running is important, that's where Georgia Tech, I think, has a monster edge. Not just Aaron Philo and Haynes King working in tandem at the end of the year. Philo, great passing, 9-1 big time throw to turnover worthy plays. Haynes King, not near the big time throw rate, but ended the season with only one turnover worthy play and 247 dropbacks. I didn't even know that about Haynes King. Like he's been elite from a non mistake perspective. The Vandy defense finished 112th in pass rush. So if there is going to be passing here, if there isn't any rain, they're just not going to get any pressure on whoever's throwing. But I think we need to talk about what's going on with the run concepts of Georgia Tech. This is why I made the bet. Jamal Haynes led this rushing attack for Buster Faulkner that is heavy in counter. 60% of snaps, rushing attempts are on counter with Jamal Haynes. They run a little zone read with both of their quarterbacks. Both quarterbacks can tuck it and run. Vandy saw counter on 64 opponent attempts this year on their schedule. A low, and I mean super low, 34% success rate, and gave up an explosive one of every five attempts against teams that ran counter. If it does rain, and we do have a field that's conducive to chunky and running attack, counter is going to absolutely destroy this Vandy defensive front, which I think it will anyways, no matter if there's weather. So because Vandy cannot defend this run concept, and Georgia Tech's offense has really put it on some teams this year, you know, I mean, Vandy finished bottom 20 in PFF tackling. They finished bottom 20 in hard stops. Their second level explosives could come for Georgia Tech in the rush offense. They're top 50 and they're just inside the top 50 in EPA. This fact that slot Malik Rutherford is coming back and his 79 targets, that I mean, Eric Singleton Jr. not being there, he's a whiteout. But having a slot with bad weather is a pretty good option, especially at 79 targets and 2.4 yards per route run. That was a huge commitment that was made within like what the last 36 hours of this pod. Um, I'm taking Georgia Tech. I think the counter is just too much for Vandy to defend. I think the rain actually helps Georgia Tech a ton. Vandy is kind of a one-trick pony on offense, and just need Georgia Tech to step up and get a couple stops here. But I'll go head to head with you here.
I'm trusting Vandy to be a little bit more motivated and the dog in Diego Pavia. Although both these quarterbacks are going to make plays, extend drives.
Yeah.
I'm actually looking forward to watching this one.
God,
But
I
I
wish
think
these two would have played someone else. Oh.
awful. It's really, really bad. Uh, yeah, I'm rolling with Vandy. All right, let's move on to some messy bowl games Friday night. I mean, man,
You ready?
time.
It's time.
Got the
Everybody,
neck brace on.
everybody, please get your Polaroids out. Save this for the memories. Get this in your Instagram reels. I
See,
had
I'm wearing my neck brace.
I had to play Bobby Petrino. Now it's your turn.
Arkansas is in a bowl game, although maybe I
Are
shouldn't have
they?
to wear this because it doesn't seem like they want to be in a bowl game.
They don't.
The AutoZone Liberty Bowl, 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Friday night in Memphis, Tennessee. Oh, I'm gonna get in trouble. I don't claim to be a barbecue expert. So I don't want to get into the who has the best barbecue. But
Porkies.
you say Porky's. I go
Pork,
to
pork, pork,
Elwood
pork.
Shack and get a pulled pork
Porky's,
sandwich.
which is owned by Joe Klein from our Final Four teams in 1980s. So
All right, check out Porky's. Elwood Shack too, pulled pork sandwich. All right, this bowl's a mess. We have on our agree tab. By the way, we only have two bowls so far on the agree with Memphis, which is a win, and we have Texas Tech +3.
yeah,
Now this line went to Arkansas +3, and I uh I took some Arkansas +3 in advance of some potential news for Texas Tech, which ended up coming through. Now Arkansas is sitting for a much smaller of my original bet. Um, just took a portion off because I had a good idea that I was going to come back. Now Arkansas has flipped back to a favorite, but only only -1.5 now. Total 52.5. Totals came way down. I think I still like Texas Tech,
yeah.
but very difficult game to handicap. These are two very vulnerable defenses facing offenses with major question marks. That's how I would sum up this bowl game. Texas Tech also lost both of its coordinators. Zach Kittley left to take the head coaching job at FAU, and they also let go of their defensive coordinator, Tim DeRuyter. They made a really good hire, I thought, to replace them in Shield Wood, but they're missing their
I thought he'd be
coordinators.
ahead. By the way, Shield Wood was one of the hottest coordinator names. He's been following Willie Fritz around. This is an up and coming star that will be a head coach real soon. They're the new defense coordinator for Texas Tech.
Yep, agreed. In the portal for Tech, get a couple offensive linemen. No one else really that impactful that was getting a ton of snaps. The big news is starting quarterback Baron Morton. He'll miss the bowl after having surgery. That means freshman Will Hammond will go. He did see time this season. He came in that TCU game when Morton was injured. Freshman, but he's going to have time to prepare. with these bowl practices. And I actually think he might be a better fit for this offense. He's a little bit more mobile. He can run the read option. So I don't hate it. They're one of their wide receivers, Josh Kelly, did opt out. And they did have some injuries, a lot of injuries all year. So this defense might look actually healthier than it's been. I mean, just in their regular season finale, I'm not sure on their status, not 100% sure, but both their starting defensive tackles missed. One of their linebackers hasn't played since week 8. Their starting safety didn't play in the final few games. They could look a lot healthier on defense. Meanwhile, and the big news is Taj Brooks. We don't know. I thought he was definitely going to opt out. He's listed as
Right.
RB1 on the depth chart.
Yep.
That's a good sign. They need him. Hammond needs him. He is just absolutely massive. So if he doesn't play, this gets a little iffy. If he does, he is RB1 on the depth chart. Hopefully, it's not one of those things where like he comes in the first drive and then doesn't play. But I think if he plays, I like Texas Tech because Arkansas's roster is in shambles. Uh, Starting center Addison Nichols, starting left guard Andrew Kuz, starting right guard Josh Brown. They all signed already. They're not going to play.
Luke
All their
Haas.
What's that?
All to Ole Miss, almost all of them to Ole Miss.
Lots of Ole Miss. There's all their starting receivers. Andrew Armstrong's opting out.
Mhm.
Satania signed with Oklahoma. They're starting tight end Luke Haas signed with Ole Miss. They're starting safety, one of their linebackers, one of their DNs. They're
Jaquindon
all
is in
gone.
Jaquindon's opting for the NFL.
Jaquindon Jackson opting out, one of
Yeah.
their backup running backs in the portal. Along the defensive line, Landon Jackson, their best defensive player, he's opting out. Eric Gregory, their best defensive tackle, he's opting out.
Yep.
They only have 6 healthy scholarship offensive linemen. You're going to have a new starting center, a new right guard, and then one of the receivers, Tyrone Broden, he's doubtful, dealing with a family matter. Here are the snap counts. So you got Tylen Green is going to play. Here are the snap counts of the starters, the skill position starters on the bowl depth chart. Running back Rodney Hill, 115 snaps. Isaac Tesla, he's the experienced guy, 360 snaps. Wide receiver Monty Harrison, 58. Wide receiver CJ Brown, 42. Tight end Andreas Paskey, 153. I mean, so I think this Texas Tech roster is in much better shape. I actually don't mind Hammond. Think he's a good fit. And if Brooks plays, I think they're going to be able to move the ball on Arkansas. A very short-handed Arkansas defensive front and an already vulnerable secondary. And who's running the ball? Who's Green throwing it to? I mean, you're into props for this game. Look for maybe Green rushing props. What are they going to? You want to win this game? They're going to run Green.
It's the
Going
only
to have him run what, like 30 times in this game?
the only offense.
I still like Tech even with the backup quarterback. Now, Hammond could. This is just the risk you take in the Bulls. I don't think it. I think we had a little bit more intel than Ty Thompson, but he could just come in and it could be a disaster. It's just a risky take. We don't
Right.
really know, but I still like Tech here at -1.5, especially if Brooks plays and he is on the depth chart, which is a good sign. You still sticking with Texas Tech?
I am. I am. Let me throw in a couple notes around some things that you said. First off, we're recording this on the 23rd. So as I do these handicaps, I've got to start looking at weather, and I'm doing them about 4 days out. So this could change. 71% chance of rain, 13-mile-an-hour winds. If Taylor Green even had someone to throw to, he hasn't been accurate, and the weather dictates that it might be a shitty day to be a thrower. You mentioned Tesla, 25 catches that leads all pass catchers. Now, Bray Russell is our running back that has been already been in the portal twice and come back out. He is the player that Pittman's been talking about that's trying to make a better financial future for himself. But what does it matter? He does not create missed tackles. He just likes to bull you over. Not sure that's going to work here. Now, the big question on this side of the ball is, can Texas Tech defend Taylon Green against it with a second string offensive line who has made unbelievable Taylon Green has made unbelievable critical mistakes in the RPO game. And if you want to know why all of these targets are in the portal, especially considering like Andrew Armstrong is like Taylon Green's roommate, these guys have been hot pissed with Taylon Green for the second half of the season. They've wanted nothing to do with his accuracy, where he has put the ball. 115th in on target rate for Arkansas. Taylon Green has not adjusted to SEC defenses whatsoever after leaving Boise State. He has a huge pressure to sack. Just there's way too much going on. When he was at Boise State at 8.8% pressure to sack ratio, this year he saw 157 pressures, a 19.7% pressure to sack ratio. It's not been good. So you wonder what the offense is going to be. It's going to be a lot of him rolling out. You say, can Texas Tech defend that? Well, let's look at some more mobile quarterbacks on this Texas Tech defense that they've faced. Texas Tech D against West Virginia, Garrett Green, 10 rushes, minus 11 yards. Shador Sanders, 9 rushes, 16 yards. Sam Levitt for the playoff Arizona State, 9 rushes for 25 yards. And then John Mateer, I had to throw it in there. John Mateer went 21 for 197. I mean, but it's John Mateer, right? Heisman leader, maybe John Mateer. So I throw that out. I don't knock Texas Tech's defense, but they have shown a
They
track.
were beat up in that game too. They were missing multiple starters, lost more starters during the game.
Yeah, so I throw that out. They've been good. I mean, listen to the name: Garrett Green, Shador Sanders, Sam Levitt. Those are respectable quarterbacks that have legs that can get outside the pocket. So I don't think Talon has any avenue to get anything here. And if he gets popped and feels a little bit of an injury, you think Petrino's golden child that he's been connected to since when Petrino was at Missouri State, he's going to let him play and maybe have an injury for next year? Absolutely not. Oh, by the way, Malachi Singleton, our backup in the portal, long gone. So I don't know who would play quarterback.
I
And you go
think
to the other side.
Jackson, the freshman, I think that's his name. Yeah, if something happens to Green, he's going to be running a lot, which could happen.
If Taj, now here's, I want everybody to be careful with the total, right? So the total did come down about 3 or 4 points. I think that could be portal related, but I'm not sure everybody's catching up with what the weather's doing. I mean, there is a very large chance of rain. Oh, by the way, Arkansas was just in this bowl 2 years ago. I don't even know what the motivation is to get on I-40 and travel to the other side of the state. If Taj Boyd is playing here, I wouldn't think you'd want to take an under because he could just go crazy if there's rain, right? If it's a sloppy track over there, I just think that would be a really bad idea. Hammond, 14 of 22, two big time throws, one turnover worthy play, 3 games of action. He flashed some designed run against TCU in week 9. I think he can work in tandem with Boyd here and get some damage on the ground. You would say left tackle Dalton Merriman's in the portal, but 2 other players did combine for 453 snaps at the blindside tackle position. Landon Jackson's not there to take advantage of that. So I have no problems with the offensive line for Texas Tech. So with Taj Boyd, this is absolutely a play on Texas Tech. I expect that line to move. I would be careful with the total if Taj Boyd does play because of the weather. It'd be more like a Texas Tech team total over and an Arkansas team total under, no matter what. That's it. I mean, whew. Yeah, and Arkansas. You know what? We're on to Thero, Adu, Booby Fland. It's on to basketball season before we hit baseball season because football's over.
Yeah, Ty Buchanan for Texas Tech's also in the portal, but yeah, their offensive line should be okay here, and it helps when you're going up against a shorthanded Arkansas defensive line. Yeah, Taj Brooks, the main, and just the signal around Arkansas doesn't seem like they're overly excited to be here.
Joey McGuire 2-0 against the spread and bowls.
Yeah, uh, guns up. It's time to take this off. All right, now let's get to an even messier bowl game. Ooh, the DirecTV
Is
Holiday Bowl.
is it gonna get played? I mean, there's really
Washington State says they're not going to opt out. Uh, Washington State, Syracuse, the DirecTV Holiday Bowl, 8 p.m. Eastern on Fox. It's kind of disappointing. This is Arkansas is at 7 p.m., so that's good. There's be two bowl games going on because this one could get ugly because Washington State, I mean, who's playing for them? Who's coaching? I mean, they're going to be without their head coach, offensive
the
coordinator, defensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach.
the interim had an inter. Did you read this? The interim, like 36 hours ago, won't even tell anybody who the defensive staff is. They asked who the play caller was. He won't even talk about who the defensive staff is. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, this line. Oh, by the way, this is in San Diego, California. My wife used to live in San Diego for a bit. We've been out there.
Fish tacos.
Love. What's that?
Fish tacos.
Oh yeah, just go around.
Petco Park fish tacos.
Yeah, you gotta go gas lamp. It's like the
Yeah.
tourist thing to say. That's where my wife used to live, gas lamp.
Have you been to Petco?
Yeah.
God, I love baseball. I love Petco.
So yeah, you have to go see a game there in the summer. It's amazing. And it's by the way, if you want to go, just get fish tacos everywhere. Youngblood, if you're a drinker, go to Youngblood and get get reservations and go there. It's like speakeasy cocktail bar.
Props to our
Um,
a podcast producer, by the way. He's mentioning that this is Syracuse's second year in a row in a quit bowl because they got boat raced like 45-0 by who was it, South Florida in the Boca Raton Bowl last year. But now this year, Syracuse like can exact some revenge from the players that are held over. So second year in a row for a quit bowl for Syracuse here.
yes, that this is the Washington State. Washington State is your quit watch. So Wazoo, without their staff, who's out for them? 10, 11 starters. Who knows if there'll be more? Starting quarterback, John Mateer. Starting running back, Wayshawn Parker. Starting wide receiver, Chris Hudson. They're starting right tackle, both starting cornerback, starting linebacker, starting safety, two starting defensive tackles. Their starting punter is even not going to play. And then you have a couple other defensive depth pieces that have played like 400 snaps, one a safety, one a defensive lineman. I mean, it looks like Zevi Eckhouse will get the start at quarterback. Syracuse, one of their starting corners in the transfer portal, but these two teams couldn't be any more different how they're approaching this. The entire Washington State staff is out. All the players are opting out in the portal. Fran Brown, the head coach for Syracuse, and I think he cares about this game. And some of those Syracuse players last year, by the way, they got embarrassed 45 nothing to South Florida in a game where they didn't have a coach. He said everyone in Syracuse he expects to play. His exact quote was, "We don't opt out around here." So I mean, this line has some people got this line and opened it like three, 2.5, three, I think. Which I mean, I figured Natir was going to opt out, so I got a better number than what's out there now on Syracuse. It's now 16 and a half, total 59 and a half. The total seems high because how's Washington State scoring? I know Syracuse's D isn't good, but like, shouldn't this go like the Syracuse South Florida game last year, 45 nothing? Like that's the vibes I get. Would I still lay 16 and a half? 'Cause we got to talk about the current lines. I think it closes above 17, so yes, if you're gonna bet this, it's Syracuse or nothing. I wouldn't go anywhere near Washington State, but this line has obviously moved a ton. I don't know if it's moved enough. It's Syracuse or nothing, but it's 16 and a half and a bowl is a lot to lay. Help us out here.
Got it. Got it in the app last night. That would be Sunday, December 22nd. Two books had put it out. Team total over 37 and a half for Syracuse here. I don't see any other option going on here, considering Washington State's defensive numbers were, I mean, Arkansas State-ish, absolutely horrific. And now they've lost almost every single starter over there. They gave up 38 or more in the season to Oregon State, New Mexico, Boise State, and San Jose State. Syracuse scored 38 or more against the defenses of Miami, Virginia Tech, UNLV, and Ohio.
By the
Uh,
way, Washington State, we should also mention before all these opt-outs, there's probably signal that something was very wrong because they lost their last three games all as double-digit favorites. So this is a team that was trending in the wrong direction already, and now it's just an
yeah.
absolute mess. But go
Well,
ahead.
I mean, Kyle McCord's got his full weapons here. Seventh in passing success rate, 16th in quality drives. They weren't that great in EPA. They were 105th, but that could change here against this defense. If you go to the other side, the reason stuck that some of these bowls, these lines are getting like out of control. They stop and then the team covers by the closing line. I have a feeling this could happen because I went back and I watched a whole bunch of tape of Zevi Eckhouse, who's going to be the quarterback here for Washington State. 6 of 7 passing on the year, but if you do a little
Hey,
deep
babe, do you want to go do some Christmas shopping? Sorry, babe. I'm watching film of Zevi Eckhouse.
Yeah, well, yeah, Mandy wasn't happy about that. 8,000 yards at Bryant for 71 touchdowns and 25 interceptions. He generated 75 big time throws to just 50 turnover worthy plays. Um, he threw in 1,000 rushing yards over 3 seasons, and almost all of that came on scrambles. Kid can move, kid can throw. Kyle Williams, 86 targets, is still available in the slot in the whiteout, from what I can read here. And running back Leo Pelosi had 53 carries for 3.3 yards after first contact. I don't think this Wazoo offense is completely dead. And the tape I saw of Zevi Eckhouse at Bryant, I mean, it's Bryant. I get it. We're watching neck football here. I get it. He didn't look bad. So I'm going to stick with Syracuse team total over. Because if Washington State wants to put points up on the board, hey, Fran Brown's ready to roll, right? He's ready to hit you as fast as he can.
This has blowout written all over it. It's like before all these opt-outs, I was looking to fade Washington State. And then all the rhetoric around Syracuse was looking to bet them. And then you have this, their entire team and staff is gone. Like, what a mess this is. But yeah, obviously
Can I
a
ask
lot
you
of
a
the
question real
value.
quick before we move on? Can I ask you a
Yeah.
question? Am I getting chastised next July when I come to the podcast for John Mateer at OU with Ben Arbuckle as his offensive coordinator?
We're not even going there yet. But
Okay.
yes, probably. Uh, Washington State, this it feels like a death blow. Like where I feel bad. They have great fans. But
Yeah.
like where's the program headed? It's rough.
The whole, I mean, think about where they were with Mike Leach, RIP, and then even Rolovich had that team going on offense, and we need them to get back. We need to get them back to relevancy.
Yeah, and like where college football is headed, looks like they're going to be left behind.
Yep.
Uh, so let's move on to the final bowl game we'll cover on this podcast. And the final bowl game on Friday night, December 27th, the SRS Distribution Las Vegas Bowl, 10:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN, late night, Las Vegas. All right. I tweet out a updated list of all the restaurants, every different type, bracket out, updated list. I'll do that again right around like February. You can also search it on Twitter, although the Twitter search function seems to be broken lately. Um, I'll give you the staples. You got to go like you got to go to Westgate, watch a game. You got to go to Circa, watch a game if you're going to a book. If you're down Circa downtown, go to Barry's. And then the two staples that I'll give you, not like the trendy or where the new hottest chefs are. Golden Steer. Go to Golden Steer. It's a Las Vegas institution. Get the tableside Caesar. Get a steak, lobster. And then a place where we've all been together,
Mhm.
Peppermill. You gotta
Nice.
go to Peppermill. Even late night. Don't order the scorpion drink like me. Um, remember I had that drink?
Yes, I made you order it because it had what, seven different alcohols in it. You and I had it at what, 4 in the morning on a book.
I don't get heartburn. I don't really get hangovers. I had the worst heartburn hangover of my life. This thing was like this big and it was just, oh, it was blue. Drinking that at 4 in the morning. One of my biggest regrets in life was that drinking that drink. The next morning was hell on earth. Anyway,
Can I throw in a couple?
yeah.
Okay, so if you don't want to go to Vegas and be on the strip or downtown, I have spent a lot of trips out of Red Rock, specifically go into Red Rock Canyon Grill. They have a great TV and bar setup, some of the biggest shrimp and Bloody Marys I've ever had. It's rocked me a few times, but if you are on the strip and you don't want to pay $200 to sit down in a book and you don't want to deal with the riffraff of the bullshit of the people with $10 bets that are yelling over you, I love going over to Encore, actually right in between Encore and Wynn. I think you and I have been there before with a couple people, is the East Side Lounge. Now, the East Side Lounge has a couple of pull down screens with projectors, extremely comfortable couches, extremely comfortable chairs. It is made to be a martini bar, but they put the sports on. They don't charge you to sit down. You can get, if you have a group of five or less, the East Side Lounge is quietly one of the best places to watch a game. And it is also about 45-second walking distance to the Encore Sportsbook, little tiny little booth that they got. East Side Lounge is one of my little hidden favorites in Las Vegas.
Yeah. Always a great time. Can't wait to get back there soon. Texas A&M 3.5 point favorite, total 51.5. Tough game to crack. Texas A&M transfer portals to wide receiver Cyrus Allen, and then they get three key opt-outs. DN Nick Scouerton, DN Shamar Stewart, D tackle Shamar Turner. So three of their more important defensive linemen. Now they had good depth there. They still have good defensive linemen, but those are three of their best players up front.
Right.
Elko City doesn't expect any other opt-outs. So they love Moss. He's been hurt. not on the depth chart.
Moss is done. Yeah.
Yeah, he's done. USC, they've been hit a lot harder in the portal.
Hmm.
Starting right tackle Mason Murphy. They're starting wide receiver Kyron Hudson. Starting wide receiver Deuce Robinson. Starting wide receiver Zachariah Branch. Their backup running back Quentin Joyner, who signed with Texas Tech. That's important because Woody Marks is opting out. Then you got a couple other depth pieces. Their starting cornerback Jalen Smith is opting out.
Yeah.
Looks like their starting guard Pregnon will play. Kamari Ramsey is coming back. Um, it looks Brian Jackson is going to lead the backfield. Now, I think so. This line's sitting at 3.5. By the way, USC already played in the stadium. It's a little bit of an advantage there. And
Well, it's Jade May. What are you talking about? It's Jade Mavis Stadium.
yes, and USC played there, played LSU in the opener.
Yeah.
So a little bit of familiarity there. I I'm inclined to take the points here. I
Yeah.
don't. It's more of a gut feel. USC still has talent at wide receiver, right? Lane, Lemon. They're gonna have talent. Lincoln Riley's gonna draw up some things. I like what I saw from Maeda against Notre Dame. He seemed to grasp that offense, and now he's going to get a couple more weeks. Remember, he took over the job from Miller Moss halfway through the season. He's going to get a couple more weeks of bowl practices to kind of work with the ones or some new ones. And that Texas A&M defensive line, that was the strength of their team. It's still going to be good, and they still have players up there, but it's not going to be as deep, and it's not going to be as talented, obviously, when you have three opt-outs up front. I know USC's not at full strength. Most of that is at wide receiver. I still believe in their talent at wide receiver. I mean, Lane was pretty much like kicked to the curb, and then against Notre Dame, what did he have? Three touchdowns in that game.
Right.
I, I kind of like USC. I think A&M was overrated all year. I was rooting for them, but I think, and here's the other key for me. Like, if you're going to give me 3.5 in this game, I love the USC defensive staff, like from top to bottom. So you give them extra time to prepare here for Reed, who I think can get confused and is limited in certain ways. I think that's advantage USC. Trojans in Vegas, 3.5. I don't know if their opt-outs warrant this. I like the Trojans, probably going to be on the plus 3.5.
Let's start. Let's start from the beginning here because if this would have been played during the regular season at a neutral site, I would have had it Texas A&M -4. That 2.5 opener I wanted, but I also was in this area where it's like I got to see the opt-outs before I make a decision. By the time that happened, this thing flew past 3. I think 3 is a major key here, so I think you're on the right side of it.
Yeah,
Uh,
I wouldn't take you at 2.5. No, and I wouldn't mind. Like,
right,
I think the
but
right line here is 3,
the
and at 3.5 with the hook, with some of the edges I can see coaching wise, like Lincoln Riley scheming some stuff up, liking what I saw from Maeva. So I think that there's some more upside there. And then this D staff getting ready for Reed, who I think is limited. Throw in the A&M opt-outs up front. I think I got to take the hook, but go ahead.
so let's talk about market because once this thing got past 3 and I finally, we knew who was going to be in this game and who wasn't going to be in this game, the sharpest book out in the West went to 4 for 8 minutes and then was snapped right back to 3.5. And I completely agree with that move. So I think market entry here, we've talked about this before. Market entry is important. And if I see a 4 in one of these lazy books where I can get a dime down, I'm going to go for it on USC. You mentioned Jaden Maeva. The fact that the Texas A&M defensive line is going to be missing Skirton, Stewart, Turner on the inside, that is a huge boost to Jaden Maeva because he does not like pressure whatsoever. Kyron Hudson's going to Penn State. Branch is rumored he could be announcing to Georgia today, which would be crazy. Deuce Robinson's going to Florida State. So you mentioned Jacoby Lane's there, but he only had a 1.4 yards per route run. That could just be a usage issue. That could just be not enough sample size on 36 targets. But slot Makai Lemon, 46 catches, 3.1 yards per route run. Holy shit, that is majorly explosive. Zero rushing expectations here without Marks and Joyner. Uh, I see avenues for hitting the slot, just spamming the slot. I think that's what my 18-year-old says, Dad. You're spamming the button in Fortnite. Spamming the slot here with Lemon. I think that is the avenue for them to score. The Texas A&M offense is going to be extremely limited. I mean, Marcel Reed gets the nod. Amari Daniels, we've talked about him. Just the yards after first contact are not there. The explosiveness is not there from that running game. 50th in success rate rush and pass, EPA just outside the top 50. And those are numbers that, I mean, Reed struggled a lot at times. His best passing grades came against LSU and the Auburn defenses. And USC's 111th in contested catch rate. Reed could eclipse 200 yards, similar to what he did against South Carolina, New Mexico State, and Auburn. It's can they get in the end zone? I mean, we've talked about this. A&M, you've got to get better in your extended red zone attempts. A big trench advantage for Texas A&M here for the offense, from a line yards, from a stuff rate. Big special teams advantage here for Texas A&M. 10th per SP plus to USC's 56th. Again, this could come down to a field goal. And you know what? That would be in favor of Texas A&M here at the end. So I'm going to be looking for USC at 4. I think there's going to be heavy stock. I think there's going to be heavy Texas A&M money. I really do. And then I think some of the ones that are thinking like us are going to snap the 4s. If you get the 4 and it goes to 4.5, I wouldn't be scared. I'm not going to be scared by the money, because the money is going to come in on Texas A&M. So if you want to put it on the board at 3.5, that we agree for the podcast purposes, we can, because I think 3 is ultimately the most key number.
Yeah, I'm gonna be watching the market as well, see where this potentially goes. But I will be on USC if 3.5 is the best I can get.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's put it on the board.
And be patient.
Yeah, keep an eye on the app as always. So that's 7 bowl games. Thursday, December 26th, Friday, December 27th. We got an agree on USC. Quick rundown. Pitt, Toledo, Rutgers, Kansas State. I'm leaning taking the points. Like Bowling Green, like Harold Fannin props. Navy, it's a service academy. Catching points, blind for me. I think I'm just going to take the points, take the 3 with Pavia. Texas Tech, Arkansas. We still like Texas Tech. Keep an eye on Taj Brooks. Syracuse, Washington State. It's Syracuse or nothing still. And then we both like USC. And you want to wrap up summary?
Syracuse team total over. Zevi Eckhouse for Washington State. You're under the microscope. I watched too much Bryant off, too much Bryant film.
All right, that'll do it for us. We will be back later this week with part 4. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to Colin for joining me. Thanks to our producer on the back end. Most importantly, thanks to all of you for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, tell a friend, tell an enemy. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, BBOC. It really helps us out. It's time for us to go find some more bowl winners. We'll catch y'all later in the week. Cheers.
Peace out.